All right, so today I want to talk to you about infidels to the faith. Do you know what it's like to tell someone about a vision and they don't trust you, or they say, that's bullshit? Do you know what that's like? Well, it happened to Moses. And you got to remember, the Lord said his judgments are like a ring. Let's go to Exodus, no, 2nd Ezra 5:42. And he said unto me, I will liken my judgments unto a ring. Meaning, over time, we're going to go through situation after situation. Like to say, if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. My judgments are like a ring, right? He said, there is no slackness to the last. Meaning, you saw, or you can see, what has happened based on what he said. Even so, there is no swiftness to the first. Like, you can't rush it, and you can't make the prophecy happen, of your own, will and or way, or within your own time frame. So let me try and describe faith for you. It's like trying to deal with something intangible as if it's tangible, waiting for it to mature. It's like telling the children about the promised land and how to get there, but all they see is what's right there in front of them. All the challenges of the day, and they can't see past that. Most people, they're like, don't tell me about it, show me. You've heard them. They say, I'm from the show me state. Don't tell me, show me. Right? So let's go to Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. How many times have you heard that verse? How many times have you read that verse? How many times have you walked away thinking you understood that verse? Or just flat out, left it as, hey, it is what it is. Let me explain it to you, because it's like what we were just talking about in the description. Trying to deal with something intangible as if it's tangible, waiting for it to mature. Right? Faith is the substance of things hoped for. The substance of the thing hoped for would be like the promised land that we talked about, trying to show the children, to the promised land. So the substance of the thing would be the promised land. Right? Yeah, you hadn't made it there yet. But I'm telling you that we can get there, and this is how we can do it. Right? That's the faith part. The evidence of the thing not seen. So when we finally get to the promised land and you see everything that was expressed within the vision and or the prophecy, there you have the evidence of the thing that was not seen, but you were told about it. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hopefully you have a better understanding of what faith is and what Hebrews 11:1 actually means. Right? Jump down to number 3. It says, through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God. So you have to know, God already saw the vision. He already created the worlds, the world of the righteous and the world of the wicked. Like all this stuff that you see happening right now, God already, foretold, and he already understood these things. Right? So that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Right? Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen are not made of things which do appear. So it's like God had this vision. He already expressed what it was going to be, through the prophecy. And here we have to have faith to know that these things are going to, take place. But see, we're wrapped in it. We wake up every day and we go through it, and we're feeling it. Like we see it, as some say, it's tangible. But these things, you know, only happened because God said, through his framing of the worlds, that this is what it's going to be. It didn't just pop up, of its own. We're experiencing it because God said that it would be. Right? So, but most people, I guess you can tell, they only believe in what their eyes can see. Right? So it's like when you start talking about the vision of God or the prophecy, they only believe in what their eyes can see. They don't understand that all of what they're experiencing is tied to the prophecy. They just don't know where in the prophecy they are or what, you're talking about. So they only believe in what their eyes can see. As some have said, show me a sign and I will believe you. Right? In other words, you go out there, bring it to me, then I'll know that you know what you're talking about. Infidels to the faith. Matthews 12:37. He says, for thy words shall be justified, and it said, for by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. So it's important for us to not be infidels to the faith and understand that we must speak according to the prophecy, according to the will of God, according to the oracles of God, because the words that we speak, we're going to be justified by those words. And we can also be condemned by our words when we're not speaking according to faith, according to the prophecy, according to the will of God. Right? So you're talking about, this faith, this prophecy that God said is going to take place. And, there's the substance of a thing hoped for, this promised land, the end of suffering and oppression and being put on top of the world. And you have folks that all they can see right now is the oppression. Right? And to them, that's just what it's going to be. So Romans 3:3, it says, for what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of God without effect? Shall their unbelief make the will of God not true? The prophecy null and void? So God forbid. Yea, let God be true, but every man a liar. What does that mean? Let God be true, but every man a liar. Remember, you can be justified by your words, condemned, by your words. And like I said, you want to make sure you're speaking according to the oracles of God, that you're justified. So that's where God is going to be true. When you're speaking from the prophecy, you're speaking from the vision, you're dealing with the oracles of God. Let God be true. Now, when you go off of that and you get into your opinion, I feel that's when, but every man is a liar. Because what you're saying has nothing to do with the prophecy, and it's not going to come true. The things that come true are the things that stand in line with God's will, right? That doesn't mean, that people do not have superficial victories out here, but those things do not stand. Let God be true and every man a liar, as it is written, that thou may be justified in thy sayings. The only way you're going to be justified is understanding the oracles of God, and might overcome when thou art judged. So to overcome, we must know what the prophecy is. We must know what the oracles are, that we can speak these things, that when the judgment time come, right, we're going to have that salvation. See, that's a part of the faith. knowing, oh, I need to tap into the oracles of God. I need to understand this line of thought that when God's wrath come upon the world, I will overcome. I will not suffer the wrath of God. John 16:23. He says, and in that day ye shall ask me nothing. So when all is fulfilled, it's like we're not going to ask, nothing. But here we are, in this time right now as we're, looking to reach the climax. He says, verily, verily, I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall ask the Father in my name, he will give it you. So you think you're going to go and ask in the Father's name for a big house, for a jet plane, all of these mundane things? That's not what it's talking about. He's speaking to those that understand the vision, how you're going to build on the foundation. Those that know the prophecy, the oracles. So for that reason, you can ask for certain things to help you be successful at what you're doing, according to the will of God. Number 24, he says, hereto have ye asked nothing in my name. He says, and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. Right? Hereto have ye asked nothing in my name. He says, ask, and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. Right? And remember, he said, be careful how you build on the foundation that has been laid. It's like the parable of the talents, right? Some multiplied 100, some multiplied, 10, some multiplied 5, and then you had one that just buried it in the ground, didn't do nothing with it. Don't be the one that don't do anything with it. And don't look at what somebody else is doing just because you got, 5 and the other one have 100. Don't measure what you're doing according to what someone else is doing. Do the work that God has given you to do and stay within, that lane. Don't try and assess it to say, oh, they got 100. I need to get, 100. As long as you're doing according to the will of God, you're good. Right? So we have to take these understandings and work towards the goal of the vision and the will of God. That's the whole point. Working towards the goal of the vision being the will of God. Matthew's 12 and 38. It says, then certain of the scribes and Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign of thee. But he answered and said unto them, an evil and adulterous generation seek after a sign. It's like, show me. I'm from the show me state. Right? An evil and adulterous generation seek after a sign. And there shall no sign be given to it. It's like you either know this prophecy or you don't. You either trust in God or you don't. You either understand the order of things and you've humbled yourself to it, or you won't. He said, and there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. In other words, you better know what's written, because I'm not showing you nothing. I've expressed to you what it is, and that's all you're going to get. Right? So all you're going to get is the testimony, the prophecy, the vision of faith. If that's not enough, too bad. You either know it or you die. Even Moses had to suffer the disbelief of his people. God said, my judgments are like a ring. We're right here today dealing with the same disbelief, of the people. So what happened? Why couldn't they see it? Talking about the children of God, the children of Israel, when they were with Moses. Why couldn't they see it then? Why can't, most people see it now? Right? Were they infidels to the faith? Then? Are most people today infidels to the faith? Because everyone's challenging the word of God with their own thoughts. They're not dealing with the oracles of God. They're dealing with the mindset of the world. They're dealing with their education. They're dealing with, the philosophy or the indoctrination of the institutions that have given us our education. Right? So when you talk about Moses, he suffered the disbelief of his people, right? They pressured Moses so bad and they made him go against God. And Moses did as he was pressured. They didn't trust Moses to guide them. They didn't see the vision, but they continued to pressure Moses to perform, even against the will of God. And that's what we're dealing with today, folks. They don't trust, the leaders of God or the men of God, or, they only trust, what they know. And if what you know is not according to the will of God, then what do you know? You don't know anything. Right? Can you be pressured to go against God, or are you pressuring someone to go against God? The question is, do you have faith? That's the question. Zechariah 2:1. Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired. It starts with you. We're still talking about faith. Can you humble yourself to the ways of God? Will a man trust in the words of the Lord to be led? Will a woman trust in a man, even her husband, to be led according to the will of God? It sounds good. It really does. It's an easily romanticized thought. That's where most of us are with it. But most of the people are challenged and have yet to humble themselves before the Lord. Zechariah 2:1. Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired. You have to have faith to understand what it means to gather yourselves together. And it starts with you. You first have to bring yourself in a line to the oracles of God, desiring it, wanting to understand what it is, because without it, our homes remain broken. The men struggle with the women struggle with the men. We are torn between, the two worlds. And because of it, there's no peace between us. And we can't find any rest. But we need to figure it out. And we need to figure it out quick. Right? Zechariah 2:2. Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff. Before the decree bring forth is saying, God has already said these things were going to take place. Right? Before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you. That's why I said we need to figure it out. before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. Number 3, he says, seek ye the Lord. Seek ye the Lord. What does that mean? Seek ye the Lord. You have to understand the composition of faith. What, as he said in Isaiah 8:20, to the law and to the testimony. If they do not speak according to this, it's because there's no light, in them. So when you seek the Lord, you have to understand what his law is. You have to understand what the prophecy is all about, the testimony. Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth. Meek meaning you've humbled or you've submitted yourself to the will of God. As he said, the meek will inherit the earth. Only those that submit themselves to the will of God will receive the promise, right? Which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness. Seek meekness. Seek to humble yourself before the way of the Lord our God. Right? He said, it may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. So it's our sole purpose to seek the Lord, that we can be protected when he come and bring wrath upon this world. Now let's go to 1 Timothy 5:7, because we're told to seek the Lord, right? To seek his righteousness. 1 Timothy 5:7. He says, and these things give in charge. Right? The things that are pertaining to his righteousness, these are the things that we should give in charge. Teach these things, right? That they may be blameless, right? So he said, as he said in Zechariah 2:3, he said, it may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger, right? In 1 Timothy 5:7, that ye may be blameless. These are the things that we have to give in charge, right? These are the things that we have to teach according to his righteousness. He said, but in number 8, but if any provide not for his own, talking about teaching these things that will protect you when the Lord comes, that you'll be seen blameless. If you don't provide this for your own, and especially for those of his own house, teaching your family, teaching your wife, he says, he have denied the faith. Because now you've made your people, your household vulnerable. You've denied the faith. He says, and is worse than an infidel. Meaning, you're just like the other heathen. You're just like the other nations out there. You're no better. Because you didn't teach your people, you didn't teach your family, you didn't teach your wife the things that would protect them in the day of the Lord, in the day of the Lord's anger, that they would be found blameless. Right? So when you hear me talking about building something to provide for my own and my family, be it the health initiative, the justice initiative, or the heritage initiative, it's to align our actions with the will of God and not to be viewed as an infidel to the faith. Now, here's the order to usher in the new world as this one fades. From the Father to the Son, which is the head of all men. Now, when I say all men, I'm talking about the chosen, the children of God, which is the head of all women within faith. The vision to be revealed, prophecy, the will of God. So align your actions accordingly to the will of God. Otherwise, you may be known as an infidel to the faith.